July 13th, 1864. Here we are in Rockville, Maryland. Now, Confederate forces are leaving Washington, D.C. They had arrived at Fort Stevens. They had demonstrated. They had made attacks. They had gotten to within 100 yards of the walls of Fort Stevens, but they were repulsed. Eventually, reinforcements having arrived in Washington, supporting those fortresses that were there, stepping out of the forts and moving Jubal Early's Confederate forces further and further away until it was obvious that it was time to end our campaign and head towards Virginia. But the fighting of this campaign is not over yet. The Confederate forces are returning to Virginia by way of moving through Rockville, Maryland. On this campaign, it's not even their first time here in this city. They had been moving through Rockville only days before, after the battle at Monocacy Junction, as they went towards their inevitable failed attempt at Fort Stevens. But here on the 13th, Matt, the Army is moving away from the fighting that they thought they had concluded at Fort Stevens. Here in Rockville, Maryland, what is the story? Why are we talking about fighting as the campaign is more or less over at this point?
Sure, Pat. So what's happening here is the pursuit has begun. Now, it's a somewhat tepid pursuit by federal forces, but behind you is roughly east, and as Confederates have been falling back through Rockville, we are going to see federal cavalry beginning to pursue, and there would be clashes here in the very city of Rockville as the Union vanguard is catching up with the rear guard of the Confederate Army. We have to remember, Jubal Early, while he has reduced his forces to try to make them a bit more nimble and light on this campaign, he still has a lot of stuff with him. And there is going to be some significant cavalry clashes around Rockville and during this retreat as Early is attempting to protect his loot. Over $220,000 in cash, 2,000 plus horses, and additional baggage have come with him. That's not to even include the hundreds of federal POWs that have been marching with his forces from the Monocacy battlefield out to Washington and are now being withdrawn back to Virginia with the rest of the Confederate Army.